speaker, please. Next speaker is Sivasankar Babu. He is the Chief Mentor, Babu for Heritage Initiatives, Heritage Awareness Speaker, Tamil Heritage Trust. He has been presenting in a few of our last symposiums. Uh, he has got a deep involvement with uh, cultures not only limited to Tamil Nadu but various other parts of the country also. And today he is going to present his talk on the cult of Aravan and 18 days festival by transgenders at Villuppuram. Over to you, Sri Sivasankar.
Welcome, sir. Good afternoon to all. And thanks again to Indica and its Kulapati and the team, and Nagaraj sir and others for encouraging me and giving me one more opportunity to share and then propagate awareness about our rich heritage and its stories. Today we are going to talk about the story of Aravan. Let me share. So today's subject is on one of the famous characters of Mahabharata folklore, Aravan, and about his sacrifice, which many people have already covered. What I am going to extend it further is about the 18-day festival by transgenders in Koovagam. This is a village near Villupuram in Tamil Nadu. The story is how a epic and its sub-story is being celebrated as a festival and how it has been changed over into a social festival for transgenders. That is the objective. So before we go into this, let us see in Mahabharata the illustrious sons of Pandavas and the lineage, so that you will get a big picture. I think we have covered it in multiple sessions, but this is a simple visual which will put you in perspective. So Kunti gets through the Devas, Dharmadeva, Vayu, Indra, and Ashwini twins, 5 Pandavas, Vijistra, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, and Saradeva, inheriting their pattern, gods, characters, and attributes. In turn, during Vanavasa, they also marry Draupadi as a common wife for all 5. In addition, they also have their own individual wives during their travel, during their exploration, and Yudhishthira, Devika, Hidimba, Bhima has 2 additional wives, Palandara, Arjuna has 3 additional, Subhadra, Ulupi, and Chitrangada, and Nakula has 1, Karandamadi, and Sagadeva, Vijaya. So, this gives rise to a lot of interesting sons who participate in the war and some perish in the war. The popular ones are Gadodgaja, son of Bhima, and Arjuna's Abhimanyu and Arvan both get died in different circumstances in the war. So these are very popular. And again, in the next generation, 2 more people are popular. Gadodgaja's son Bhargarika and Abhimanyu's son Parikshit. Ultimately, the Pandava lineage gets extended and then continues only through Parikshit, which is a later conception. So this is the big picture. So today what we are going to talk about is primarily about Aravan and certain amount on Bhargarika. How they assist the Mahabharata war, and then what is their role and how they are directed. When we talk about Mahabharata in the original Sanskrit version, Aravan is briefly mentioned in Adi Parvata, where it talks about the visit of Arjuna to Nagaloka and marriage in Ulupi. But later in the Bhishma Parva, it talks in detail about the birth of Aravan and how he dies. It also mentions that Aravan grows up in Nagaloka and then he gets all the boons and he gets very strong. And finally, he moves over to Indraloka and meets Arjuna there. From there, he gets an invite to come and support in the war, and then he comes to Kurukshetra. The challenge here is that he also takes part in the fights. First day he fights with the two of the leading persons, Sudayus, and then defeats him. On seventh day, he defeats Vinda and Anuvinda, the princess of Avanti. So it is also documented. On day, he fights successfully with 5 Gandhara princes, nephews of Sakuni, and kills 4 of them. And only Purisha escapes. Enraged Duryodhana orders one of the Rakshasa, Alambusha, to kill Aravan. So there starts a magical fight where Aravan takes the form of a fiery snake, and then with his Naga army, he fights in a magical way. So by suggestion and from tips, Alambusha also takes Garuda form, and finally in the battle, he cuts off Aravan's head and he dies. So that is how it is documented. Again, on 14th day, Gadodgaja, his cousin, finally kills Alambusha during the continuation of the war. On 14th day, the war doesn't stop at dusk and it continues beyond. And in that fight, Gadodgaja kills Alambusha. So that is the story of the fight, valor, and death of Aravan as per the original Sanskrit Mahabharata. So this is an AI visual of how the fight would have happened. Then, when we come to Tamil Nadu, we get a slightly different stories. Right from 7th, 8th, and 9th centuries, there has been stories and it has been documented in Bharata Venba by Perundevanar. It talks about Kalapali. What it does is that the story is expanded that Duryodhana, before the war, he approaches Sahadeva. Sahadeva is the renowned astrologer and he approaches Sahadeva. Sahadeva being a straight one, he doesn't give spin dates like the current day Jyotishas, and he gives a proper auspicious date for Kalapali, where in the new moon day, if you do sacrifice, then you are winning a war. Krishna, hearing this, becomes furious and puts some counteractions. And he selects 32 Lakshana having 4 persons, himself, Arjuna, and Shalya, who is on the other side, Krishna, as well as the Yudhishthira. Again, the Aravan is becoming one of the 4th start list. Again, finally, Krishna selects Aravan for several reasons. One possible reason which the later treatises give is that Aravan was too powerful and given himself, he himself could have finished the Bharat war on his own and the Kauravas would have been eliminated and it won't lead to the cleansing of the entire population. So there is another reason why he was selected as a Kalapali. So finally, he also tricks with Surya and Chandra to shift the new moon day by 1 day before, and on the particular day conjunction, Krishna gives Kalapali of Aravan, where he cuts his head and puts it. So that is the story, which is a variation where Aravan dies even before the war starts. That is the story. This story is again extended into more details. In 14th century, Bharadam is a poem by Villuppuram. It is a beautiful Tamil poetry, where the reason for this is explained. During this explanation, Aravan used to pray for the Astra Devas and get 3 invincible errors which can finish everything. So what does is, when Krishna goes there and tests him and challenges, he hides a few leaves of a tree and challenges Aravan whether he can hit all the trees, all the leaves in the trees with one arrow. He said, yes, I can do it. And then he fires the arrow, which clears all the leaves in the particular tree. And then finally comes to Krishna's leg and says that there is something pending. So Krishna is knowing the true power of this one, and with these 3 arrows, he can finish off the entire Kauravas. So that is the challenge where he doesn't want this to happen, because his job is to cleanse the world of all the bad elements and then reformat it. So when Duryodhana approaches Sahadeva and gets the auspicious date for Kalapuri, the story also says that in addition he requests Aravan for as a Kalapali, and which he agrees. And then Krishna, as usual, tricks and then makes the Kalapali one day earlier, where with the initial flush of offerings, so that later on Aravan can continue on the next day with the promise to the Duryodhana. So the first one from Pandavas is a perfect timing, and second one is an imperfect timing. So blessed with this, he gets a boon to see the war through his eyes by the head touching on a mast. So that is the first boon being mentioned in Villupuram Bharadam. So this is how he, even though he is dead, he is seen the entire Bharat war through his eyes. Then later on, when this Bharatam and others getting distributed to next level and then expanded, in Tamil Nadu, there happened to be a very, very focused interest in Draupadi as a god, way away from the Kurukshetra, which is far, far away, and the story of Koothandavar. So in this cult, in Draupadi cult, the local story is that there is also a second bone. The second bone is for viewing the Bharadava through his eyes, so that in all the Draupadi temples which you see in Tamil Nadu, the head of Aravan will be kept as a sub-screen or in a separate mandapa. So that is one part of the story where he is depicted in the Draupadi cult. Again, there is a parallel cult for worshipping Koothandavar. This adds 2 more boons into the story, where the first boon wants a death of a hero after fighting a worthy enemy. So what Krishna does is, he asks Aravan to pray for his grandfather, Shesha, the grand snake, who embraces him and gives him flesh and life. So he rebirths and then he fights for 8 days, and on a given day, he dies a heroic death with Alambusha. And also it is said that Krishna suggests Garuda form to Alambusha to kill Aravan, so that he gets a glorious death. So this is one part of the story. Then the second part of the cult belief is that there is a third boon where Aravan talks about before I die, I want to get married and get conjugated primarily because that is how I won't die as a brahmachari and I will die as a grahasya and with the proper death rituals. Again, nobody was willing to marry a man about to die. And finally, it lands on Krishna, who again takes the Mohini avatar. He is half the time taking a Mohini avatar to solve one problem or other. So this is another Mohini avatar where he takes a Mohini avatar and then marries Aravan and stays with him for one day. So this is a picture which is a visualization. And after the sacrifice, it said that he mourns for one day and then only shifts over to Krishna form on the next day. So this story is the core of Koothandavar cult, and this is what is getting enacted in all the temples of Koothandavar. In some of the other legends, in northern side, there is also a story where Aravan is married to Paravanasiyal, the daughter of Krishna's cousin, Satyaki. So there is also a parallel story. But again, whether it is linked to transgenders and others is a question which we need to explore, which I have not explored so far now. So with this, the story of Aravan doesn't stop. Then when it comes to the other regions, in Andhra, in Gujarat, and in some other, there are similar stories available, but with variation. One story is Barbarica, where Barbarica is the grandson of Bhima and Hidimbi. We saw that story earlier. He is son of Gadodgaja and Princess Maurvi of Mura. So, again, as a boon, through his penance, he has got 3 infallible arrows. The same story of Krishna and other things comes in. But in the twist in the story is, Krishna straight away asked for a gift to him, and then he asked for the head of Parvarika. Ultimately, he cuts off his head and gives it to Krishna. And as a boon, he watches the war from a hilltop till this one. So, a similar story, but with a different character and different worship. But the theme is same. The same theme continues in Katausham, in Rajasthan and Garhwar, which was covered in the earlier talk. And in Gujarat, it is called as Balidev. Java has got extensive documentation on Aravan, where they call it as Aravan. There are a lot of leather puppet and other shows around Aravan, and then it is a detailed subject by itself. The story is slightly different, but very interesting. So, the same story, the concept of sacrifice for a betterment, and then getting something in the benefit, and then staying in the middle land. He is not enjoying, he is not getting died. So that state is being highlighted in multiple stories and multiple regions. Again, coming back to the Aravan, the story doesn't end there. So it transforms into the next generations as a Koothandavar. So what is Aravan becomes Koothandavar, let us see. After the war, when they are happy and in a high mood, all of them again come back and visit Aravan. And then Krishna, as usual, puts a spin and asks Aravan, so who contributed to the war? Everybody was expecting his name or something, including Arjuna. Finally, what Aravan says is, I saw only 2 things. Krishna's chakra cutting everybody, and his conch shell collecting their blood for the Draupadi to bath. So clearly says that it is only Krishna who orchestrated the entire stuff. So his father gets very enraged and goes on to hit him. And finally Krishna stops him. And then his head is drowned in a Saraparika river in which he assumes a child form. The king of Chandragiri, the current day Chandragiri is outside Tirupati, but I don't know whether this Chandragiri is that because the place Koovagam is around 60 to 100 kilometers away from the actual Chandragiri. So the king of Chandragiri finds a child and names him Sarapalan, and the place as Koovagam because the child was crying as Kua Kua. I don't know whether other childs cry as different thing, but this is the whole story. So he grows into a strong boy, and then he kills Kuttacharan, who fought with the father, his father king, and then he kills them, and then he becomes a darling of the people. So after praying with Draupadi, he blesses him as a Koothandavar with a temple in Koovagam and many other places. So this is how the Aravan gets transformed into Koothandavar and then gets a very, very visible temple in Koovagam. The cult then expands and then spreads all over the place. And if you see this, the reach of the cult in Tamil Nadu, this is the 8 major districts in which identified Koothandavar temples are there. This is in Villuppuram, Kadalur, Pondicherry, Tiruvannamalai, and Vellore, Salem, Erode, and Coimbatore. This is a belt where identified temples. Again, the number of temples are interesting, 32. Where did you hear the number 32? It was earlier in the sacrifice where a person having 32 Anga Lakshanas was sacrificed and cut into 32 parts. So again, the 32 number continues. So this is part of a major Draupadi cult, which is wider prevalent in Tamil Nadu. When you talk about Koothandavar, this is focused only on these areas. Whereas when you talk about the Draupadi temples, it is also there in Kanjipuram, Chengalpet, Chennai area, Andhra border, and the Karnataka border, which was covered earlier by some of the speakers, and there is going to be some more talks on the Karnataka side. And also, it is prevalent in the Tanjavur belt. So, Koothandavar cult as a sub-cult of Draupadi is one of the major interesting concepts of Mahabharata's subset getting instituted way away from the north side. That is an interesting part. Now, if you see this, the key image iconography of Aravan or Koothandavar is only the head. So this is the largest Aravan image in Tamil Nadu, which is in Hajar Street, Kumbakonam. So the iconography is protruding eyes and with the namam and with the Kirita Makutam and terror looks, large eyes and 2 demonic tooth coming out. So this is the standard iconography of Koothandavar. There are similar images available in multiple temples, in Draupadi temples or in separate Koothandavar temples all over Tamil Nadu. This is another interesting and beautiful image, the latest image in Ayyambete in Kumbakonam. There is one more in Kothatai in Kadalur, where there is a stucco image as well as a Abhisheka or a tour image also, which is in granite. And then this is in Koothattai, Kadalur. So this cult is spread and settled in Tamil Nadu, and that too in particular in northern Tamil. Now let us go to the prime temple of Koothandavar. This is at Koovagam. And we are going to see how the festival happens there and what are the events and varieties. So this Koovagam is around 150 kilometers plus from Chennai on the highway, and near Ulupi we need to take a cut towards west and then reach Koovagam. And this is a temple wall. On top of it, there is a beautiful depiction of the story where the Panchapandavas and Krishna come and then worship the Aravan as a head. Now, going to the other wall, it also exhibits stories where the marriage of Aravan to Mohini with all the Pandavas present, and subsequent later the taking of Aravan to the Kali for the ultimate sacrifice and keeping the Aravan's head separately. So it's a simple but beautiful temple, and this is how it looks like. A panoramic view, a Garbhagriha, a small Antrala, and then Ardha Mandapa, Mahamandapa, and one Natya Mandapa. All are, this seems to be little older, but all these things are modern structure. And whatever we saw, the stucco images are here. So it's a fairly simple and very functional temple. This is how it looks. This is the main entrance to the temple, and from there you can see the sanctum. This is the next level of the entrance, and this is only 2 levels into the sanctum. And in the sanctum, this is how the main deity looks like, only the head and then with the full decoration. So this is where every year in April, May, during, before and after the new moon, the festival happens for 18 days. This year it happened from April 22nd to May 6th. It was estimated that around 5 lakhs transgenders from all over Tamil Nadu, from India, and from many from Singapore also arrive here to celebrate. In addition, the traditional local district people, men also participate in this ritual, and then they also tie the tali. Again, this is for fulfilling an obligation or asking for boons. In earlier days, in 1900s, it was only the men who dressed as women or as it is from the Vannier and other castes who wanted to pay their obeisance or any any boons or any rituals done, they become part of this and wore the tali and then complete the festival. So that is how it happened. This is some of the examples. But in Father Francis, who was there in the time, he has done an extensive chronicle. There was no mention about transgender or Aravanis getting aligned with this. So it is only the men dressed as women tying the talis. Again, the function of the ritual marriage and breaking out used to happen on the last day of the festival. Whereas now in the modern times, the marriage happens on the 14th day and mourning happens on the 16th day. So the timing and schedule and has been realigned to ensure that On 14th day, new moon day, the marriage happens, and then there are 2 more days before. Interestingly, from 1960s onwards, slowly more Aravanis, it is called as Hari in Tamil or Hijra in Hindi, they started associating with Mohini or the dual status of men and women, and then they aligned with the Aravani culture, and then they started supporting and visiting this all over Tamil Nadu, and then it has extended to India, and now even foreign country people are visiting here. So this has become from a religious festival slowly to a social gathering of all transgenders. Let us see in the next few slides the actual sequence of what all happening, how the ritualists and socialistic functions are mixing together in these festivals. In the first 2 to 3 days, the people arrive and then they registered at camps and then they stay outside in the fields and other things. And then every day puja happens and then Karagatam, Kuthu, all these dances happen. And people talk about the Aravan's stories in the village square. There is the first 3 days getting settled. Then the next 4 days, there are structured cultural workshop and competition. This is where the change is happening. From being a social function, it is getting transformed into a welfare kind of a structure, where since so many transgenders are there who already also do for lack of other alternate employment, they do in sex selling. There are HIV camps, free testing and other things by government as well as the local NGOs who give free test, who medications and other suggestions and counseling for them. Again, for the transgenders, there are a lot of dance, singing competition, all these tamashas happen. And Aravan is being taken as a procession every day with a lot of dance and fun. And this is where the local crowd and people want to have sex. They also get attracted, and then this is one pollutant in this temple. Then the next 4 days, there are some more structured activities in terms of beauty pageant and then public debates, discussions, and then awareness programs and all these things. So beauty contests also happen. And then there are talks by them, panel discussions on transgender rights, legally installed, and then counseling for their employment gainfully instead of going into as sex workers. And then there is a lot of evenings full of songs, Tamil songs, wild songs as well as the Opari songs, and local Kuthu songs kind of thing. So it becomes a fun time in the evening. From the ritual side, this is where on 13th day night, Aravan's soul is ritually transferred from his head to a pot and the head is painted. Like how you transfer the power from Mula Vigraha to Urchva Vigraha or Puri Jagannath, the transfer of the secret element every 12 years. So Aravan's soul is transferred to a pot. And this pot is getting rotated there, and the main Aravan statue is getting repainted. On 14th, this is the big day where the wedding of the Aravan takes place, where all the locals who have taken a vow or the transgenders, they come in their best dresses and then they come as a ceremonial procession. And in front of the Aravan in a mandapam, the representative of the god ties the tali to them. And in the evening, there is a high mast which is created in a professional chariot, which is getting ready for the final execution of Aravan in 2 days. Then on 15th day, there is fun. This is where the newly married people parade in their best dresses. They have fun bonfire and then have fantastic lunch, and then they exchange songs. And this is where a lot of people get attracted to this. And then the 15th night is a total freak out. This is a free for all, and that is the peak of the thing where people from all over the area come for some free fun. Lot of dance, fireworks, way into the night. Then 16th day is the actual sacrifice of Aravan, where symbolically Arvan dies. The soul of Aravan is transferred back to his repainted head, and the head is his life is created by opening the people. It is put on a palanquin and then took on a procession around the thing. And while it is going around the village, whoever is gathered there, they remove their thalis, break bangles, and then put the thalis in a place, and then they change into white saris, and then they whatever is a bound hair, they make it as a open, and start wailing and crying, and collective lament, saying that நான் இரவானின் பெரிய செயல். So saying that, so mourn the great sacrifice of Aravan. So that is the start of the mourning. And the next day is full of cry, and then they share stories of the loss, and then they beg around the temple and get sugarcane and bananas as their food for the particular day. And they gather in the temple to do final rites for the departed and go to there is a river nearby, and then they leave lamps in remembrance of Aravan. This is the time where the legal aid camps and others catch up, and then again conduct one round of final counseling. The last day, this is a conclusion and farewell, where the Aravan statue is taken in a procession and reinstated to the original state, and the final puja for blessing for fertility, prosperity, and social acceptance is done. So there is a big Annadanam happening for all people, and with traditional Tavil and Nadasaram, the deity is restored to the original state. So the Aravans and the transgenders who have accumulated over a period of 18 days, they depart back to next year with a promise to come next year. So this is the story or the sequence of how, yes, ritualistic, symbolic festival has been transformed in the last 50 years into a congregation and a social gathering for transgenders, and how government and others are leveraging it. So this is also being exposed by famous photographers and cinematographers like Shashikant Anandachari, Sivasankar and others, who will trading on performing traditions of Mahabharata in Tirukuttu. So this is one of the pictures which they had done in Aravan when they conducted one of the boot camps. So to sum up, in 300 villages around Tamil Nadu, Mahabharata is not it's a story, it is a living festival, vibrant celebration with the activities happening from 20 to 120 days in terms of stories, dances, and then events. And then this is how it unites communities in a unique cultural experience. So to sum up, Koovagam is a Mahabharata legacy turned into a social event. So, Aravan, the eternal witness to the war and unfulfilled love and desire, is a dichotomy. So, the twin narratives of being chosen as well as the condemned one in the mythology serves as a metaphor for self-perception of the transgender people whom they are feeling as benefited but again unfulfilled. So, in the last 60 years, the traditional Koothandavar festival has been transformed into a site for congregation and assertion of identity. Again, seeing the transgender people getting more and more into a particular location, in the last 20 years, the government and the NGOs also have started putting their weight into the site in managing the festival and using it as advertising and counseling ground for better health and hygiene and giving alternate employment and occupation for the transgenders. So, in Koovagam, the epic theme of death, sacrifice, human longing, and sexual identity is there. It is colliding with the mythology, history, and the autobiographies of the transgender. So, this is happening on one side. The sad part is, it also continues as a site of conflict among transgenders and then media sensationalization for the wrong reasons and the liminal space for desires. So unwanted desires and it becomes as a annual sex orgy kind of a thing also is the negative side of it. So this is how the Mahabharata still lives as a story, as a ritual, and as a social practice. Thank you. Thank you all. You can see similar presentations and other things in my YouTube channel where art and architecture related structures are available. Thank you.
Thank you.
There were questions from Madhu Vateri about whether this is the same festival celebrated in Kodagu and Karnataka, men dressed up as women, and Birinani village in Kodagu in Kerala border. Similar stories will be there. I have not gone deeper into it, but definitely the same story and the theme will be repeated upon South India as well as in other areas.
Yes.